What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. We've officially reached the college football playoff quarterfinals, so we're going to be previewing every game right here, right now. I think we got some pretty solid matchups here. Now, there's two of the matchups I don't like. I'm sure you can take a guess on which two teams I'm not a big fan of that I think they're probably going to get blown out this week, but we'll see. But you can see the bracket here. We've got Texas and Arizona State in the Peach Bowl, Ohio State, Oregon in the Rose Bowl, Penn State, Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, and then Georgia, Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. Let's go ahead and start at the top with the 5-4 matchup, Texas and Arizona State. All right, so it looks like in this one, Texas is favored by 12.5, so a pretty large margin right there for Texas, about 2-touchdown favorite almost. Texas coming off a win over Clemson. They looked dominant in the first half, and then that second half kind of took a step back, kind of took their foot off the gas pedal. As far as these two teams are concerned, first off, start with Texas. Big fan of Texas defense so far. I think they have one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the country this year. Now, their offense is where they've been struggling. Quinn Ewers and more with the play calling as well, not getting guys open, not being able to block against Georgia, for example. Georgia's the only team that's beat them, but they have looked really subpar against Georgia on the offensive side. Then for Arizona State, I think Texas has a lot more talent than Arizona State across the board, but Arizona State won the Big 12. I'm a big fan of their backfield, Levitt and Scatabo. I think they're both pretty good, solid players. Now, can they keep up with Texas? That's my worry here. Texas, I think, is a lot more athletic. Like I said, across the board, a lot more talented. And I think that's going to come into fruition by the time this game is over. I think Texas will wear them down. While Texas hasn't played the toughest schedule, they've played Georgia. Arizona State hasn't played anybody of Georgia's caliber. So I think Texas will win this one. Now, I could see Arizona State keeping it close because, again, with Texas' offense, sometimes they're pretty pedestrian. Sometimes they can't get the ball rolling. And Arizona State's been rolling as of late. You can see they really handled Iowa State in the Big 12 championship to clinch their spot here. But give me Texas in this one. I think Texas gets the dub. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. We've got Ohio State and Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Oregon favored by 2.5. Now, these two teams have played each other already this season. Oregon winning that game by 1 in Oregon. Looks like matchup predictor wise, you've got Ohio State favored being picked 53% of the time. Ohio State coming off a pretty dominant win over Tennessee. I thought that was Will Howard's best performance this year. I thought that was the best Ohio State has looked this year. You backtrack to a couple years ago when they lost to Michigan and made the playoff, gave Georgia all they could handle. Probably should have beat Georgia, blew a 21-point fourth quarter lead. And if Will Howard plays like he did last week, I think Ohio State wins this game. That's, again, the best he has looked all year. Put the money on the ball, put it on the dot everywhere he threw it, and he looked good. And if he looks good, that's going to lead to Ohio State success because he's surrounded by talent all over the place. We got multiple backs, multiple receivers, defense is stacked. Quarterback's been the big question mark for me all year, but if he plays like that, they'll win this game and they might win the championship. But Oregon coming in this game undefeated, been pretty dominant. They struggled at times, against some teams. You can see they won by 3 against Wisconsin, struggled at the beginning of the year against Idaho, Boise State, barely beat Penn State, but they were up by a lot on them at the beginning in the Big Ten championship. But this game, I think it's a coin flip game. I think this is the best game of the week. And again, with Oregon winning by 1 point last time in Oregon, this one's not a home field advantage. How are they going to respond here if you're Ohio State? I think Ohio State gets the win here. If they look like they did last week against Tennessee, they win this one. But if they break out like they did against Michigan, Oregon's going to wipe the floor with them. But I think Ohio State wins this one. Give me Ohio State here. All right, let's move on to the next one. We've got Penn State and Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State favored by 11. Penn State being picked 64% of the time. Penn State coming off a dominant win over SMU. As for Boise, not really anything impressive this year. Their best so-called win is a loss to Oregon. So I've been a little skeptical on Boise all year. I haven't really understood the hype as far as why they got the bye. Don't think they deserve that. Nothing against them. Ashton Jeanty's a heck of a ball player, but besides him, I think they're going to run into some trouble here. That Penn State defense is something else. That's probably the best defense in the country, I would say. And I think they're about to shut down Boise State. Now, the good news for Boise State is Penn State's offense. As much as Penn State won against SMU, their offense did struggle. A lot of those points were from pick sixes on defense and turnovers. So if Boise State can stop Penn State and not turn the ball over, just run Ashton Jeanty as many times as you can. It might be 2 or 3 yards a gain. That's fine. But don't turn the ball over. Don't air it out and throw picks. Wear Penn State down and just make sure you have a chance at the end to win the game. That's Boise State's best bet. If I'm their coach, I think you just run GT all game, like I said, and then don't risk throwing the ball and airing it out and turning it over. Now, Madsen hadn't thrown many picks. You can see he's only thrown 3 picks, but still, I think that's their best chance here. But Penn State, I think, similar to that Texas-Arizona State game, I think they're just too talented across the board. I think GT is a heck of a ball player, but he can't beat Penn State by himself. Give me Penn State here pretty big. All right, the last one here, we've got Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Georgia favored by 2. Now, Georgia is going to be without their quarterback, Carson Beck. Has been reported that he is out for the playoff. So that changes things here. Notre Dame coming off a win over Indiana, 27-17, but it wasn't near that close. And as for Georgia, they've had some good ones this year. Beat Texas. Now, they did lose to Ole Miss and Alabama, but Georgia is very consistent. All right, they're one of the most consistent programs, if not the most consistent program in the country now that Nick Saban is retired. So despite Georgia not having Carson Beck, that's the question here. How can they do? Now, their quarterback looked good against Texas in that second half, I thought. But sometimes you'll see that where a backup comes in, they have a heck of a half, and then once they actually get to play the full game, other guys have already stepped up in that half. They don't have it on them anymore. Notre Dame, though, I do question just how good they are. What's their best win? I mean, we go through their schedule. It's probably Texas A&M. And other than that, they really haven't done anything of note because I don't think Indiana was a very good football team. Notre Dame is talented. If Georgia can contain Riley Leonard and Notre Dame's run game, though, I think Georgia will win this game. But this is going to be a good one as well, similar to that Ohio State-Oregon game. I think it's going to be close, especially with Carson Beck out. But give me Georgia here. I think they're a little too much to handle for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is a little too inconsistent, as you can see by that loss to Northern Illinois. So give me Georgia here. But those are the 4 quarterfinal matchups. What are your picks for this one? Those are mine. Let me know yours down in the comment section. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.